dissatisfaction about the economic conditions. We had it as high as 80 in our poll. According to this national poll here, 75%. What's interesting, though, is the economy. Look, we're not going to give many of the state exit poll stuff as much yet because we know people are still voting. But in the battleground states, dissatisfaction with the economy is greater than this number. And in the battleground states, in all but 2, is Joe Biden's approval rating actually below the national average. But it's worth noting the 2 where he actually does a little bit better than the national average, and it's Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. So just something to keep in mind there. Let me take you through a few other things here. This is the condition of the U.S. economy. As you can see here, 39% think it's poor. 39%. I mean, just tells you this is, you know, to borrow a phrase that we're going to hear a lot tonight, economy stupid. Now, abortion has been pretty interesting here. As you see here, this looks like what we've seen in national polling. 60% believe it's legal. When you look at the abortion issue, and you did it by, there are 2 of our battleground states where abortion topped inflation as the #1 issue. New Hampshire and Pennsylvania.
Ooh,
so just, I mean, so the point is this. Look, the national exit poll looks good for Republicans. When you start looking at the battleground states, it's going to be a long, you said election day is going election night. We're going, election night's going election week. And maybe, and maybe election month.
All right, well, Chuck, 6:06 Eastern, Chuck.
But on those top issues, though, when you break it down from Republicans and Democrats, obviously abortion and inflation going for Republicans, but independents, inflation, the cost of living, also their top issue.
Look, and this is, to me, the difference between whether this is a tight race tonight or whether when all the votes are counted, all is said and done, we see the independent sort of swing in a bigger direction here in one way. And so that is something, there's no doubt, independent, the economy, more so than anything else. By the way, one other point I want to make here, and I don't know if we've put it in yet.
Democracy?
Yes, look at this. Look at this. For all the talk. All right, you're not surprised. Are you confident that your vote's going to be counted accurately? 95.5 among Democrats, 71.29 among Republicans. Okay, so only, you know, look, it's baby steps here, but the fact that a majority of Republicans believe this count's going to be, it at least tells me maybe we'll have an okay night. We're not going to have people complaining or assuming the worst.
Does that number that you're having on the monitor right here tell you anything about some of these states where election denialism is on the ballot, right? In states like Arizona, where the 3 statewide candidates on the Republican side are all election deniers or skeptics?
Look, I don't want to read too much into it yet, but this is, I think, I will tell you this. The election deniers do look like they're having a tougher time.
Okay. And the January 6th trial as well, clearly having an impact with that number as well, you know?
Okay. These are early. Everything is early. But anyway, fascinating stuff.
Chuck Todd.
All right.
You're staying close to a camera friend. No dinner breaks for you. Thank you.
I ate and slept yesterday.
Okay, good.
All right.
Thanks, Chuck. Appreciate it.
Our superstar team of reporters is watching some of the biggest Senate races tonight. We're talking about the races that could determine the balance of power. NBC is watching 9 battleground races with the ones you'll see in the yellow total toss-ups as we put up the map right there. And our reporters tonight are in those toss-ups, including Pennsylvania, Georgia, and Nevada. But I want to start with Dasha Burns in Pennsylvania, who's been reporting for months in that key state for us. Dasha, bring us up to speed on the latest. And we know there's been some issues in certain counties there, including Lucerne County, right?
Yeah, Tom, that's right. Look, Pennsylvania, as much as it is ground zero for the battle for control of Congress, it could be the state that's keeping us waiting quite some time. Because of the election rules in this state, election workers couldn't start counting those mail-in ballots until 7 a.m. this morning. It's a very time-consuming and tedious process. And on top of that, this morning in Philadelphia, the county that's likely going to take the longest, they reinstated another time-consuming and tedious process to check for double votes, so making sure that voters didn't both mail in a ballot and vote in person. Critical, but very, very time-consuming. So any hopes we may have had of results out of Pennsylvania by tomorrow are all but completely dashed. And now we are watching an important and developing story in Luzerne County, where dozens of polling places, get this guys, ran out of paper to print those ballots, and a judge today extended the voting hours there till 10 p.m. So polls closing at 8 p.m. across Pennsylvania, but in Luzerne County, it'll be 10 p.m. And in that court order, the judge wrote, quote, voters in Luzerne County, through no fault of their own, were disenfranchised and denied the fundamental right to vote. And the local officials I've been speaking to there are shocked, are incredibly frustrated, are worried that some of the voters that weren't able to cast their ballot when they went to their polling place are not actually going to come back. You know, a lot of folks have work, have kids, have a lot on their plate. So they are concerned about disenfranchisement and are just wondering how this went so horribly wrong. And it's something that we're going to be watching. There are going to be a lot of questions and investigations looking into this, guys.
Dasha Burns, where all the action is there in Pennsylvania. Dasha, thank you. You know where a lot of other action is, Tom?
Down
State
south.
of Georgia.
Yep.
You know it because you've got this really close race between incumbent Democratic Senator Raphael Warnock and former football star Herschel Walker. Our Gabe Gutierrez is posted up down there. And Gabe, this is a race. We say, I feel like it's like deja vu. Like Pennsylvania, it's a race that could determine the balance of power in the Senate. It's also a race we may not know the results about for a while, and a race where you've got, you know, a lot of focus on how the voting is actually going. So how is the voting actually going?
Yeah, Allie, the stakes are incredibly high here, as you mentioned, and right now there is an urgent scramble to get voters to the polls. The polls here in Georgia close in less than an hour, and yes, Raphael Warnock and Herschel Walker the last couple of days have both been trying to convince their core group of voters to come out, and they want to win this race tonight, or at least possibly tomorrow. What they don't want is for no candidate here to get 50% of the vote. As you mentioned, there's a third-party candidate here in Georgia, a libertarian, and according to Georgia state law, if none of the candidates reach that 50% threshold, there will be a runoff election next month here in Georgia. Now, the voters I've been speaking with, they're not thrilled about the idea of another couple of weeks of campaigning. And Tom and Hallie, just think about all the money that has been spent in Georgia. More than $250 million that's flowed into this race. Again, both campaigns hoping that they can close the deal tonight. But right now, where I am in Southwest Atlanta, there are groups across the street waving signs, blaring music, trying to convince these drivers going past that perhaps that they either forgot to vote or hadn't made plans to vote today. They just have a few minutes left to cast their ballots. Again, polls close here at 7 p.m. Eastern Time.
And Gabe, as you're reporting, we actually just got some early exit poll data in from Georgia. The question to the voters: does the candidate show good judgment? For Herschel Walker, only 33% said yes, 64% said no. For Warnock, 51% yes, 46% said no. And you know, Gabe, Chucko, he says is, look at what campaigns do, not what they say. Talk to us about those ads that the Warnock campaign ran in the final days of this campaign, because they got very vicious very fast.
Yeah, that's right. So Raphael Warnock, just in the past couple of days, he intensified his attacks against Herschel Walker, saying that he's not just not ready for the office, but that he's unfit, that he's a pathological liar, according to Raphael Warnock. And Tom, those exit polls are very interesting because voters I've been speaking with over the last couple of days, even Republicans, those that support Republican Governor Brian Kemp, they said they were voting for him. One woman told me that she did vote for Herschel Walker, but did so reluctantly. So that's a big question that we're going to have to see tonight here in Georgia. How many of these voters are actually split ticket voters that perhaps went